I have felt my most powerful when I have stood up for myself or someone I love or something I believe in. Speaking up it's scary to me. It is so scary, and speaking my truth and making others feel uncomfortable is something I do not like, but yet when I do it, I feel so much better.
That's Hannah Diffenderffer, and this is the Powerful Ladies Podcast. Hey guys, I'm your host, Kara Duffy, and this is the Powerful Ladies Podcast, where I invite my favorite humans, the awesome, the up to something, and the extraordinary to come and share their story. I hope that you'll be left entertained, inspired, and moved to take action towards living your most powerful life. There is so much information out there about how businesses can use social media to reach their goals. Courses, programs, YouTube videos, blogs, expert opinions, you name it. In this episode, we sit down with Hannah, a social media manager and strategist, to find out the truth about social media. What do we really need to do? Where's the fluff? Is this social media hurting our business? Is it harming future generations? All the questions we ask. Plus, she reveals her own journey through the industry and how it's led her to discovering how powerful she truly is. All that and so much more coming up, but first. This episode of The Powerful Ladies is made possible by our Patreon subscribers. Did you know that for as little as $1 a month, you can support this podcast? You can send us love, tell us that you want more. You can support all of our events and all that we're doing in the world to fulfill on our full circle of empowerment. It starts at $1 a month. That's less than the coffee you're drinking a day. And there's so many more levels that give you more bonuses and fun things and behind the scenes information. So go to our Patreon, patreon.com/powerfulladies, and support us today. Thank you in advance. Welcome to the Powerful Ladies Podcast.
Thank you.
Let's start. Introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and what you're up to.
Okay, my name is Hannah Diffenderffer. I was born and raised in Southern California. I currently live in Costa Mesa, California with my boyfriend, Dan, and our 2 rescue dogs. By day, I'm a social media manager and strategist for a consumer packaged goods company or CPG brand called PowerCrunch.
Very cool. We know each other because we're in the same ladies meetup, book club, empower each other group. And I think that the story of, how your career has transitioned in the past year and a half is really interesting. And I think it's a topic that a lot of people could relate to. So I'm excited that you're here to share. And then I also would love to get into just how social media and marketing is changing today, and how the industry and what we need to do is evolving. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we just dive into, how did you get into social media and marketing to start with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually studying public relations in college many moons ago, and my big goal was to be a fashion publicist. I wanted to take Los Angeles by storm and kind of be that LA PR gal. My last semester of college, I went to California State University Fullerton, CSUF.
And you were studying there, and then what happened?
So my last semester of college, the whole semester was based around social media. And this was a time where there was no business pages. There was no paid advertisement on social media. It was a really brand new to businesses, but people were kind of coming out of the woodwork and using it for businesses. So it was all centered around that. And that's where I started to get a taste of the power that social media could really have. And I was interning in LA at a boutique PR agency, a fashion PR agency, and I ended up getting a job there as a junior publicist and social media coordinator. And that's really where I sunk my teeth into the social media game. I ended up not liking LA, not liking fashion PR, not liking social media and fashion. I just did not, it was not what I expected. It wasn't what I had envisioned years prior. So I came back to Orange County and I got another job at a digital marketing agency, full service digital marketing agency, and was also taking some freelance clients on the side. And that is where the hustle got real. And I was living the agency life and learning and kind of growing that corporate ladder, if you will. So during my agency time, I started as an assistant and then got promoted to a social media manager role. And then I soon became the lead of a department where I was leading 11 other social media managers.
Very cool.
But sometimes, yeah, it was a good time. Lots of learning.
So if we go back to your time in fashion PR, what did you imagine it would be like versus what it actually was?
So I thought I was going to be Samantha Jones from Sex and the City, where I was lunching with clients and going to fabulous parties, and it was not that at all. It was at least my experience, right? So my experience was not that. It was pretty intense. Lots of personalities you're dealing with, lots of egos, and it just did not fill my cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got that. A little bit more Devil Wears Prada than Sex and the City.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yes, very much so.
So for people who aren't familiar with the social media or the agency world, what does it mean to be a full-service digital agency?
So a full-service digital marketing agency means you offer social media management, social media strategy, paid social media. You offer website development. You offer SEO services. You offer content marketing services. So anything in the digital realm is going to fall under a full-service digital marketing agency. So my role was specifically social media, but we learned about other, just naturally picking up on other facets of the digital world because you were placed in teams.
And would that also include things like email marketing?
Yes, definitely. Email marketing is a big one.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, everyone gets like Instagram and everyone's understanding that like, yeah, you have a Facebook and a Twitter, like people have these things today, just like they have a website. But the truth is, if there's strategy behind it, it can really become ways to not just elevate brand awareness or identity, but to monetize your business.
Yes, absolutely. If you're doing it right, of course.
Yeah. So and of course, like social media has changed so much. So when you look at how it's evolved, even since you've been working in social media, what do you think are the big differences from when you began to now? And also, what are some of the misconceptions?
So some of the differences from when I first started was this always on mentality. And you'll hear that a lot when you're speaking to anyone in the social media game, where you have to have this always on mentality. And a few years ago, that meant pushing content out as much as possible. And it was more so a more is more mentality. Whereas now, due to algorithm updates and big, heavy influencers coming forward and talking about mental health, and not always being online, it's actually less is more. So it's being intentional with the content you're putting out, making sure your message is not just sell as a business, but also what kind of value can I give a consumer with my social media content versus just trying to sell a product. A big misconception about social media is you will get sales by posting. Mm-hmm. That's one that I hear a lot. I've been posting. I post 3 or 4 times a week. Where are my sales? And it really is contingent on so many other things. And really, depending on where your business is and what you're offering, it might not be a lead generator for you, and that's okay. And I think that that's a tough pill to swallow for some business owners. And sometimes will shy away from social. And that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a lead-driven platform for you. Doesn't mean shy away from it. If anything, it means take hold of it even more so.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of clients that I work with that are always asking, I have these social media outlets and how can I determine what ROI I will get? So a lot of people, when you're talking about what is the ROI when we're doing social media, how do I justify how much I invest in digital marketing, everything else that we're doing? We have to kind of walk people through that. When it's a matter of what happens when you get the lead and the contact and what you do with it, not just that you got it. Like if you could have 100,000 followers and make no money, or you give $100,000 and have a business.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. It's like crazy. And then as you guys are looking at, I'm sure you have to be at the top of your game, right, of social media if that's your thing. So there's so many platforms today. Even thinking about Powerful Ladies, we have like Patreon and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and our website and Twitter and Pinterest. And like it just keeps going. How do you guys prioritize which platforms to use? And like, what tip can you give to people listening who have a business that are like, if you had to focus here, or this is the platform people aren't paying attention to that they should be?
Absolutely. It is so overwhelming, the number of platforms that are out there that you can use. Even for me, having a good amount of time under my belt, sometimes I still get overwhelmed when a new platform emerges. And I get attached to how am I going to make this work for my core consumer? And it can be extremely overwhelming. And so if anyone feels that way, it's a natural feeling. But I think the first thing to know is you do not have to be on every single platform. That is definitely actually a strategy that is a no-no. If it doesn't make sense for your brand, of course. So taking a step back and looking at the different platforms that you have and asking yourself, is my core consumer on this platform? Depending on age ranges, depending on, you can get as specific as gender if you would like, but you do not have to be on every single platform. It's really what makes sense for you, your business, and your core consumer. Instagram right now is a powerhouse. There's no doubt about that. You can't not talk about Instagram when you're talking about social media. And the interesting thing about Instagram is that there's almost like platforms within platforms. You have your feed, you have your Instagram stories, you now have IGTV, you have highlights. And so that Instagram alone, which is technically one platform, can absorb so much of your time. We now have TikTok, which is this emerging app. And just keeping an eye on new platforms is something I always advise as well. You don't have to jump on a new platform right as it emerges. Give it some time. Let it settle in. See what other businesses and what other people are doing before deciding if it's going to work for you and your business. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you're low on resources of human time and the thinking time and let alone money, right? Like it just keeps on going.
Absolutely. It can get extremely overwhelming, and then usually it ends up to the point where you don't want to do any of it because you're just so overwhelmed. And so it can really turn into that. And so my magic number is 2. So if you are low on resources, whether that be people power, money, whatever it may be, take a step back and pick 2 and then go from there.
I love that. That is a great pro tip for everyone listening right now. Yeah, that's so digestible. Like I can take this home right now. Thank you. So, and of course, you and I have had discussions as well about what it means like to be in, like for your career to be around people using social media and how all the good that it can do and also all the impact it can have, because impact goes both ways, right? There's the yin and the yang of all of it. How has that impacted you personally being in this industry and what you've thought about the role that you have, and how are you doing, what steps are you taking to change any of the negative impact out of the equation?
So there was a time, recently there was a time where I was considering leaving the social media game altogether because the negative impact was just eating away at me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, when I was growing up, I didn't grow up with Facebook and Instagram. And when I look at the younger people in my life, when I look at my nieces and my nephews and my friends who have children, they're growing up with phones in their hands, and they're growing up knowing to go on Instagram, asking their moms if they can get on Snapchat, and just taking a step back and kind of analyzing this new user behavior, this younger generation user behavior, started to really, really scare me. And it started to make me feel like what I was doing professionally was almost tainting the next generation. And that's not something I wanted to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And after meditating on it and really thinking about it, it dawned on me that I need to stay in this game and use it for good and make sure I'm putting the message out there that social media is very powerful. And yes, there's so many negative side effects on it, but there's also this really, really, really positive movements that can come from it. And it motivated me even more to be that social media manager that is preaching using social media for good rather than for bad.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I come from a background of physical products, right? And you can't care about the environment or people's finances or living a life of less stuff, but more intention, and make stuff at the same time. They're competing games. And so there were so many conversations we had about, even if you're doing everything the best way you can, like just the waste and the excess, and do we need more? Like, how do you win at the apparel or footwear game if you aren't pushing more? And I think it's a really interesting time we're in because I see people transitioning from like being clear that we need minimalism in regards to physical things in our spaces and that have our attention. And we're just starting to break into what it means to need minimalism and intentionalism in the digital space. Like we're looking at all the people who, whether it's hoarding or people when they retire or downsize in their older age, all the stuff they have left. And I am personally starting to have anxiety about all the digital stuff that, you're going to leave as a legacy for your family to deal with when you pass on, let alone just knowing it's all there. And even if it's in the cloud, like there is a literal cloud somewhere. Like there are warehouses full of servers. So it's not like we actually have all this data out in nothing and in space. Like there are land and space resources being used up for all of it. So yeah, like I'm going down a black hole, but I find it interesting to see like what are people doing to be smarter about the digital stuff that we're creating and creating more with purpose. Because I think it piggybacks onto the social impact we're having. Like there's also this stuff impact.
Yeah, absolutely. You can lose a whole day just being on social media. And I'm sure, I know it's happened to me before, and I'm sure it's happened to others, but being intentional with your social media usage is a message that I advocate for. Picking days where you aren't on social media at all, dare I say even on your phone, but I know that's taking it a step further. So starting with social media first, where you're not mindlessly scrolling, you're not opening the app, and just giving yourself 24 hours social media free, where you're present and you are living in real life rather in your digital world. It starts there. And I've also put out little goals for myself. So, when I'm eating breakfast, lunch, or dinner, I don't have my phone near me. I'm not on social media. When I am reading a book, I don't have my phone near me. If I want to take notes, I take the pen and paper, old school pen and paper. So I think just starting with small goals, like anything else really in your life, if you are so attached to your phone and so attached to social media, that is going to help. That's going to help in such a huge way, and you're going to see that you're going to get your day back. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. No, thank you. Well, when, we're obviously on this podcast talking about powerful ladies, and I would love to know, like, when have you felt powerful, and like, what is define what powerful means to you today?
I have felt my most powerful when I have stood up for myself or someone I love or something I believe in, where I don't. Speaking up it's scary to me. It is so scary, and speaking my truth and making others feel uncomfortable is something I do not like. But yet when I do it, I feel so much better. And if you work with clients, or if you have a tough boss or a tough team at work, or in any really facet of your life, speaking your truth is so powerful, and it can be scary and daunting, but it is so worth it.
And I feel like that's a great segue into you sharing the transition you've gone in recently with your career.
Yes. So I have worked extremely hard to get into the position that I am now. And it was a goal of mine to become an in-house social media strategist and manager. But I did know that I wanted to experience agency life and work at a digital marketing agency. And I learned so much from my time at an agency in regards to technical skills, to leading myself, to leading a team. And I had to make a decision, a very difficult decision, to stand up for myself during a time where I felt I was being taken advantage of. My time, my mental health, my creative genius. I just felt like it was no longer a fit anymore. And the way that this agency was going, I could tell I didn't have much time left there. And I had to make a really tough decision and was transitioned out. And it was difficult. And there was times where I had to dig really, really deep and ask myself if I had made the right decision, but ultimately it was. And I am so grateful for that experience.
What was the scariest part of going through that transition?
Not knowing what was going to happen next. I did not have a game plan at all, which is not part of how I operate.
Yeah.
I usually have 6 game plans in case one of them falls apart. And I had no game plan. And it was incredibly scary, but it has strengthened me to the point where I feel the core of myself has changed in a sense.
Yeah. And it was happening in real time, right? When we were all meeting together and supporting each other. And one of the things that really impressed me with how you handled it was that you knew it was a transition period. Even if you couldn't see it, you had confidence that something better was going to come. And you put in a structure to like give yourself time to like sit and be with it while still giving yourself separate time to be like proactive and searching for what was next.
Yeah. So I had to, like I said, I had to really dig deep. So I would spend my days meditating, reading, journaling, breathing. And then the other part of my days, I was networking and trying to find my next opportunity. And there was a few things that I was struggling with because I felt pulled in 2 different directions. Part of me knew I could either start freelancing and making a name for myself in that world, or I could go in-house and work for one company. And I knew deep down in my heart that I wanted to be in-house. I knew I wanted to experience that at least once in my life. And I just knew that that was the route I needed to go. And so I started having to turn down business because I was being asked about my services, and it felt so wrong. Like, how can I turn down a client? How can I turn down money? How can I turn all this down for something I don't even know if it's going to happen or not? And it was so ambiguous and it was so scary, but I just knew that where my alignment was going in-house and experiencing that. And I'm so happy that I listened to myself, because the position I'm in now is a dream position. It's something that I've always wanted and I've always envisioned for myself. And although it was so insanely scary, I can't even tell you how scared I was. It was so worth it.
Mm-hmm. And from like start to finish, from when you could tell things were like not working at your previous company to starting at your new company, how long did that take?
So that was about a 4-month period,
mm-hmm.
4 to 4.5 month period. I mean, to be quite honest, I knew I was going to have to transition out of my last company probably at the beginning of 2019. And it took me 8 months to kind of figure it out,
mm-hmm.
Which is a learning lesson within itself. But from the time where I transitioned out to finding my opportunity now, it took about 4.5 months, give or take,
mm-hmm.
which in hindsight is really not that long. But during that time period, it felt like 100 years at times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially when you're rattled to a place where like the self-doubt is in about not even just like what you were capable of, but if you wanted to be in the industry, what path in the industry, like all the stuff comes up, right? So there's a lot to process and get back rooted into what really is meant for you and who you are, and this is what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. There was so many thoughts running through my mind, and journaling was such a huge help, because I was able to put all of these thoughts, whether deemed irrational or not, onto paper and kind of just purge them and get them out. And between, wanting to leave the industry, staying in the industry, becoming strictly freelance, trying to find an in-house opportunity, there was just so many things that I was dealing with. And I was also recalibrating from a really, really intense, almost 3.5 years at my agency job. That was, I call it boot camp, because it was nonstop, and I was working really hard. There was weeks where I was putting in 50 to 60 hours. And sometimes I just look at myself in the mirror and ask if it was even worth it at times. And so it was this process of recalibrating, trying to figure out my next career move, and asking myself and being honest with myself if I even wanted to stay in the industry I was working in. So it was a lot.
mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who I feel, as 2019 was ending and 2020 was starting, there's a lot of people who were kind of doing the self-assessment of, am I where I should be? Am I going after the big things that I should, be brave and just do? And a lot of people were coming to me asking about, how do I break into the career that I want? And, you mentioned how you spent half of your time, getting back in touch with, yourself and meditating and journaling. And the other half was networking. And networking is a word that people use a lot. And it means so many different things to people. And I think the stereotype is boring cocktail party where you have to talk to strangers and wear name tags. And to me, it doesn't mean that, because I've kind of it occurs to me differently. But what type of networking were you doing, and what type of networking would you recommend to people who are trying to go to that next place for themselves?
So that's a really good question. So the type of networking I was doing was online networking. So there are, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, there are so many different type of webinars and so many different type of e-blast lists you can sign up for that will help you get your foot in the door. And if you can find a contact online and connect with them on LinkedIn and start a conversation there. There is nothing wrong with that. In fact, that is kind of the way I feel the world is turning right now. Now, not to discount the power of real life at all in any way, shape, or form, because for me, networking online transitioned to having a lunch interview or having a lunch meeting or going to a meetup in real time, in real life. And so if there is anything that you're remotely interested in, sign up for a webinar, sign up for that e-blast list. Is there something that you can find online that you can sign up for in real time, in real life? That's really where I would start. And that is where I started. And it proved to be really successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's so much work that goes into getting your next great job that has nothing to do with applying.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing at all.
Mm-mm. Like pretty much if you're applying online, it's going into a black hole. And can you get a job from an online application? Sure. But are there 500 other steps that you usually have to do that make it actually happen? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're dealing with so many different algorithms and is your resume have this many words, or does it have a photo? Is it going to get ranked on the lower end of the algorithm, or is it going to, and the time that you apply, there's so many factors that go in when you're applying online. And something that I found was successful, if I didn't have someone who could recommend me or someone in the business who knew someone who knew someone, I would do a little LinkedIn research and try to find the hiring manager and send them my resume, my cover letter to their email. And although it took a little bit more research work, stalking, if you will, on my end, it was worth it. And I think it's really powerful if you go kind of that extra mile, if you will.
Yeah, completely. Because most people, like, you present well. Like if you meet someone and you like them, they're automatically going to be like, we should at least talk to that person at a minimum. Mm-hmm. And if you have any of that on your strengths list, then you have to do everything in your power to get in front of people or get on the phone with somebody. It's just like we were talking about earlier that, social media is a funnel, right, for getting an initial introduction for people. And once you get that initial thing, like you have to move them on to the next step before they decide to purchase or to buy or whatever the game is that the company is playing that has this account. So I really feel like there's so many parallels between clarifying the funnels that we have to go through for what we want in life to what you have to create for digital marketing today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just a linear journey, right? There's just so many other ups and downs you're going to hit, and that's okay. That's totally fine. When you know that and you expect that, you can easily maneuver and you can be nimble and you can essentially go with the flow, if you will. And the hurdles that you face are expected. Yeah. And welcoming them in and embracing them is much, much more beneficial than resisting them. Because when you resist them, they become a real problem. When you welcome them in, you're able to kind of maneuver around them.
Mm-hmm. When you think about, who are the people in your life that have inspired you and given you the courage to do the things that make you feel powerful, such as standing up for yourself and the people you care about, who are the people that have, gotten you there and that do inspire you through their power?
So I was raised by a single mother. She had 3 children, and it was a girl boss, powerful lady before there ever was one. She really taught me how to be tenacious and stick up for yourself and go after what you want without hesitation. And during this time, she was raising 3 children all on her own, and she was working her ass off and working so hard to make a name for herself in the industry that she services. And she did a phenomenal job. And she showed me some of the brutal sides of working really hard, which is sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
There was time she sacrificed with her kids. There was soccer games missed and football games missed and dance recitals missed. But inversely, she would show up for us after and was honest with us as to why they were missed. And she always just promoted this self-awareness that I didn't even know was self-awareness until I got older. And I am so grateful for her courage and her strength and her ambition, because if I can be half of what she was, I feel like I will have succeeded in my life.
Very cool. We've talked a lot in our girls group about like what we need to do to replenish ourselves, right? Like we give so much every day to our careers and our partners and our family and all the other things that we care about, plus responsibilities. Where do you go to get replenished and, get back to, your source?
Mm-hmm. So I've been meditating for about a year and a half now. I go to a meditation studio. It's actually a healing collective here in Costa Mesa. It's called Behind the Lids Healing Collective, and it has changed my entire life. And I'm someone who lives with anxiety, and I've just discovered the word anxiety and that I live with it probably within the last 3 years. And I've had it my entire life. I just didn't have a name for it. And if you live with anxiety, it can really eat away at you, and it can eat at all facets of your life. So already trying to hustle and work hard and be your best version of yourself, living with anxiety can make you work double time. And so finding meditation and being able to connect with myself and sit with myself for an hour and a half a day, although it's extremely scary in the beginning, has been such a beneficial tool in my life, because I've noticed in my relationships, in my career, before I don't react when things aren't going my way now. I take a deep breath and kind of sit on whatever is going on, and then I can make an action after that. And it is such a powerful tool, and I'm so grateful to have it and to have discovered it.
Working in the social media world, is that an industry like many of the others associated with, fast-paced, high-powered things where you're working 100-hour weeks all the time? Or now that you've moved into an internal role, is it a much more normal paced, expected schedule?
So, this is such a good question. There's a few ways to answer it. I thought moving into an internal role, it would be a little bit more of a slowdown, and it would be this normal, 40-hour work week type deal. And not to say that I'm overworked or burnt out, but there are days where I'm moving so fast that I, sometimes forget to eat, which is not something I recommend, but it happens. So I don't necessarily think it's like an agency versus an internal role. I think it's just social media in general. And so some days are quieter than others. Some days are slower than others. But I definitely still have my days where I'm sprinting. And I think that that's just the way that the social media world is going. I don't think that you can really get away from that.
Yeah, because there's so many different apps out there to pre-plan and get things staged. But the truth is, if it's meant to be a real-time connection, you can't really avoid there at least being moments of live and real.
Yep. And so in this internal role, there's a lot more pre-planning, which is something I really love. So my content is being pre-planned a month to a month and a half in advance. And that's what works for the brand that I work with, right? Mm-hmm. So if that doesn't work for you and your business, that's fine. That's not a hard and fast rule. But for us and some of the logistics that we are dealing with, it works to plan content out in a month and a half. And I have different teams that I'm working with. I have a graphic design team. I have a photography team, and I'm fortunate to have the the budget and the resources to work with those teams. But that takes a lot of planning on my end. And so the pre-planning is great, but it also sometimes does me a little bit of a disfavor because things happen in the world that you want to talk about on social that pertain to your brand, and you have to pivot, and you have to pivot fast. And so whether it's, you putting together a design to go onto social media or you talking with your team and getting it done, you just never know, because there's so much power in that in real time. So it's a little bit of both. Yeah. Definitely being flexible.
How important is it for you to do a lot of research and stay abreast to what's going on in marketing in general, and of course with competitive like social media sites?
So I dedicate 1 hour of research just to social media and marketing a day. So 1 hour of my day is spent reading articles or listening to a podcast or a webinar. It is extremely important to me, and as any social media manager, whether you're seasoned or you just want to get into the game, half of your job is staying up to date with the latest platforms and trends. The algorithms change so much on these platforms that if you are what I told you a year ago could have totally changed from the now. Mm-hmm. So making sure you're staying up to date is a vital part of my job.
And it doesn't seem to be slowing down, right? All the changes and the new things that are coming.
No, and it's something that I love about it, and I also don't like about it, because once I feel I have mastered something, it changes. And so it's always keeping me on my toes, which it's just such a conflicting feeling. It can be taxing at times, definitely, but also I like it in this weird sense. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting feeling.
And I think it's interesting as well when you see who's getting, like, as an outsider, you can only see how people are performing based on how many followers they have or how many likes they're getting. And mm-hmm. I think it's really interesting to see that, the variety of content that people are creating to achieve the same outcome, and how some feeds of Instagram you can see they've done a really big color strategy and they post the same type of photos all the time, or others mm-hmm. are all quotes and they have 500,000 followers, and you're like, really? And so I think, whenever a client's coming to me and like putting all this pressure on themselves to have this marketing and social media specific and Instagram even more specifically strategy, I always tell them, like, just why are you doing it? Like, why? Like, likes and follows do not equal customers.
I am so happy that you said that, because it is 100% true. Your likes and your follower count and your likes are vanity metrics. They do not translate to dollars in the bank. If you have 100,000 followers, you do not. I mean, I hope maybe eventually you do have $100,000 in the bank, but if that happens and you don't have $100,000 in the bank, don't be surprised. It's really not about why aren't I getting these likes? Why aren't I getting followers? It's more, what can I put out there into the universe, into the digital universe, to get these likes and followers? And I would even take that a step further and say, what can I offer to the digital universe to be of value to them, so they want to like and follow my content or my pages? Mm-hmm. When you get so attached to these vanity metrics, to these likes and followers, you really are doing yourself such a disfavor, because that's not necessarily what social media is about. Sure, it's part of social media, mm-hmm. but it's really about connection, and it's about like-mindedness, and it's about value. You have to remember that social media is media, and it's consumed the way that you would watch TV or you would watch a movie. And if you're not adding any value to your social media platforms, campaign pages, then why even bother with the likes and the follower count? Because if you're not thinking above that, you're never going to get those vanity metrics mm-hmm. At all.
Last year when Instagram went down for like 24 hours, it might have even been less, and everyone freaked out. And then I have Twitter accounts. I rarely use them. Like for me, it's like I go to it for more news things or more things that are like date time specific conversations versus just for the sake of seeing what people have to say. And I loved that, like how Twitter just absorbed everybody else that was normally there and freaking out, and all the memes that came with it. So with Twitter being like the current stepchild to Instagram, are there benefits for like of the Twitter platform that might be smarter for some brands to use instead of Instagram as their primary or one of their two that they pick?
So let me tell you, they are the one platform that hasn't really up and changed their algorithm too intensely. Like Instagram changes their algorithm like all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like Twitter gets overlooked so often. But you're right. It is used as almost like a news source. Mm-hmm. And so my belief with Twitter is that if you are wanting to position yourself as a thought leader within the industry that you service, Twitter should 100% be part of your social media strategy. And at the very least, maybe having one or two pieces of content going live on Twitter once a week. And it doesn't have to be anything extremely sophisticated. If you are writing blog content, post your blog content there. If you are reading a third-party article that you found really interesting, post it there and in one or two sentences, say why you found it interesting. It's the fabulous thing about Twitter is you don't have to overthink this platform. Whereas with Instagram, there's so much that goes into it. Your aesthetic, the design, the amount of posting, the different functions of Instagram. There's so much that goes into Instagram, whereas Twitter is, you can use it a little bit more passively, and it will yield pretty major results if you're consistent with it.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Okay. So Twitter is going to get some more favor after this episode. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We talk to a lot of our guests about the, books and tools and resources that they rely on every day to either do their job or to, keep them powerful and inspired. What are some of the resources that you rely on that are your favorites?
So you mean professionally, right? Like within the social media industry?
Both.
Okay. Professionally, I heavily rely on a blog called Later Blog. And they're actually a platform. They're a social media scheduling platform, but they have this really, really amazing blog. And they're usually the first to put out any new updates with anything social related, but more specifically Instagram. And it's easy to digest. I have a former colleague who went off to start her own business. Her name is Jess Jacobson, and she is a powerhouse. I swear her and Facebook have something cooked up together because she's always in the know of everything that happens on social media. It is pretty impressive, and she is someone I look up to and admire very much so. There's also another scheduling platform that I use. It's called Hey Orca, and they do so many amazing webinar interviews and blogs, and I'm always looking to them for anything social media industry news related. There was one more, but I can't remember. So I guess that would be it.
That's okay. So we talk a lot about social media and that it's a lot of hours. There's a lot of topics. There's a lot of opinions about it. There's a lot that's changing all the time. So it's definitely not like a career you choose if you want to coast. But what are the fun and glamorous sides of it?
So, goodness, this is an intense question, for me at least. So I think when I feel the most fulfilled in my job when I can connect with people and I get messages, direct messages through social media, either about the brand that I work for and how it's helped change their life and how the content that we're putting out is inspirational. I think that human connection, taking the digital sphere out of it and just real hardcore human connection is my favorite part. That doesn't have anything to do with people liking the content I put out there or following the pages. Just these like simple, direct messages that we receive they make my day and they make it worth everything that I do on a daily basis. And it's really amazing. And it goes back to, that's what social media is all about. It's about this connection. It's about this real life human connection. And sure, that could potentially get tainted with the way that sometimes how social can be. But at the end of the day, if you're being authentic and you're being true to yourself, true to your brand, true to your brand's goals, your brand strategy, when you get those messages of people reaching out and expressing how much you've been of help to them, it really just makes my day worth it.
That's very cool. Do you save those and print them out?
I screenshot them.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's the modern equivalent, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it totally is the modern equivalent.
Yeah. So we've talked about Instagram, we've talked about Twitter. The next one that keeps coming up for conversation is Pinterest. And
ooh,
I'm a fan of people leaning in on Pinterest because it does link you directly back, or does link people directly back to your own website. What is your opinion on Pinterest, and what is maybe some like the pros and the cons in the Pinterest world?
So Pinterest is fabulous. I love Pinterest, personally and professionally. So I think, just like you said, it's a great tool to generate website traffic. That is going to be the number one pro. So if you're a business who is constantly updating your blog content or your vlog content, Pinterest is your jam. I would suggest getting on Pinterest. Now, if that's not something that is part of your strategy, maybe Pinterest isn't the best route to take. But I wouldn't discount it altogether. I would kind of just keep it on the back burner and maybe you revisit it. That's the one beautiful thing about social media altogether. You don't if you say no to one platform today, in 2 months you can pick it up and revisit it. Mm-hmm. And that's the really amazing thing about just social media in general. But Pinterest specifically is an awesome for website traffic. The one, I guess, not really a con, just something to be aware of, is that it should be updated pretty regularly. And so if that's something you can't commit to, then I would suggest maybe shying away from it for now. But the more you update it, the better. The more pins, the better, if you will. I'm reading and I'm hearing, and I'm not too well versed on this, but I'm reading and I'm hearing that Pinterest is making this big change within the next year. And they're kind of changing the way the platform works. And maybe this is you heard it first, but I'm not entirely sure if it's going to happen. It's just kind of what I'm reading and what I'm seeing. And again, I'm just waiting to see if it happens, but a big change could be happening with it.
Ooh,
something to think about.
All right.
Yeah.
Breaking news, Powerful Ladies podcast.
Yeah, exactly. You heard it first.
So whenever a client comes to me and I have a kind of a startup checklist that we run through, we always end up talking about social media and marketing. And the first piece of advice I give them is, once they've landed on a name, to just go and reserve their handle in as many places as possible so that it doesn't get taken by somebody else. I don't say to activate them all, but at least like reserve them all at wherever you can.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say would be the second piece of advice for people? Like they've just started, they figure out their name finally, they've reserved their handles. Now what?
Okay, so you reserved your handles. Now let's see who your core consumer or your demographic, whoever you service, let's see where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Twitter? Are they on Pinterest? And then after we've figured out where they're at and where they're most active, let's pick those platforms and let's start creating a strategy. I do not suggest going straight in and starting to post or create content and post. That's something that I don't think that's a good habit. Plan out your content. Be intentional with it. Make sure it makes sense for your audience. After that's done, okay, let's push it live. Now, this is where I feel business owners, they can get a little discouraged, especially if it's your first go around with social. It's not always going to perform well. And there are so many factors that go into it. Is it the time? Is it the platform? Is it the type of content? Is it the wording? There's so many factors that you can nitpick and just take one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
A/B test is what it's called. So if it didn't work this time, let's look at it. Why? Maybe we didn't post at peak hours. So let's post at peak hours next week and see what we get from it. A/B test like no one's business. And you're going to A/B test a lot. And that's okay. That's part of the game.
Awesome. I also have a lot of people coming to me asking for advice on how they can find either a social media or marketing freelancer or a agency. And they would love to know, like, what questions should they be asking or what should they be looking for when they're trying to choose their partner?
Ooh, this is such a good question. So a great place to start would be LinkedIn. That's definitely a great tool to really find anyone, but specifically social media. Usually social media professionals are pretty vocal on LinkedIn, especially if you are an agency or you're freelance. So that's definitely a great place to start. And then some questions to ask. What is your strategy? And even if you don't really understand what the answer is, you'll be able to tell if they're being authentic or not. Mm-hmm. So if their strategy is more, that's an outdated strategy. If their strategy is push content as much as you can to everywhere, outdated strategy. Another question to ask, goodness gracious, this is a tough question. Going along with strategy, if it's a cookie, do they offer unique strategies or is it a one size fits all? That's definitely something to consider because every single client or business, even if they're in the same industry, should be receiving unique strategies. That's something to consider.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like hiring any other professional service. So whether it's a coach or an accountant or a lawyer, your insurance broker, do they work with people and businesses like you? Do they handle the size of business that you want to do? Do they have experience with your industry? How busy are they? How much attention will you get? What is it that is above and beyond that you will get the help you need? Because especially when you're a startup and you're small, you often don't find an issue until it's the 18th hour and you have to get it solved right away. Otherwise it could be huge, financial or risk issues that come up. Especially when there's like less eyes watching everything just by the nature of being a solopreneur or a small team. And so I think being able to have access to people who can get back to you quickly or have really good customer service, like that's also really important. And even if it costs more, I think that's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think expectations too with your social media manager, specialist, coordinator, whomever you decide to work with, having those expectations set out in the beginning are also going to be beneficial down the road. So as a social media professional, you know that there's going to be hiccups. You know that business strategy aligns with your social strategy because your social media manager is basically maintaining and monitoring your digital footprint, if you will, part of it. And so having those expectations that if something goes wrong in my business and I need to, there's a hiccup or there's something, as there always is, can you be there for me if I need you to be? Putting that out there from the beginning is going to be much more beneficial than not, because oftentimes social media professionals, especially if you're freelance, I hope you don't have any more than 6 clients, but say you have a few clients and you can't give yourself to everyone else. You're going to become extremely burnt out as a social media manager, and it's going to hurt you rather than help you. And so laying those expectations down from the get-go with both parties is something that is definitely encouraged, because there has to be a balance between the two. So as a social media manager, I have to realize that I am going to be needed at different hours and odd hours and hours outside the normal work day. There's no such thing as a normal work day for a social media manager. And that's in-house freelance agency life. There's just not, because something could happen on social and you have to go into damage control mode really quickly. So going into that, you have to understand that. But at the same time, you also have to protect your creativity, and you don't want to get too burnt out. And so again, laying those expectations down where, yes, I will be there for the 911 emergencies, but not every emergency can be 911 is encouraged.
Yeah, because people need to have their own boundaries in a life and
some
level of predictability. Otherwise, there's zero efficiencies and everything would cost more.
Exactly.
Or if you're not charging more, you should be for that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So as we're kicking off a brand new year and a new decade, what are you excited about for yourself and for your industry? And what are you looking forward to creating this year?
So I am extremely excited to launch an influencer marketing program for the brand I work for. This is something that is that's newer to me. I've done it before, but not on the level that I'm doing it now. And I'm learning a lot, and I'm getting to also implement what I already know and see if it still works. So I'm extremely excited about this program that I'm putting together. And it's this blend of real life and social media world all together that I'm really excited to see come to light. What was the other part of your question? Sorry, I got so deep into that.
And what are you excited about for you? What are you creating outside of work and just for your life in general as a powerful lady?
So I'm in this very, 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 very beta phase. I don't even know what it's going to look like yet, of putting together some sort of how-to guide, or maybe it's an ebook, or maybe it's an actual book, who knows, for social media managers to take care of themselves and to be able to take a hold of this always on job and make sure you're maintaining balance and boundaries. It's kind of a 2-part deal. So because this is something I never knew I was going to experience this. I never knew that I was going to have clients asking why they didn't have 1,000 likes on a piece of content that I created. I never knew that I was going to have to measure. Sometimes it felt like measuring my worth in these vanity metrics. And especially for people who are new to the industry, I want them to know that it's okay to sometimes take a step back and ask yourself, why am I doing this? And to take a deep breath and continue to move forward. That, because your worth isn't measured on one piece of content or one post. And then also, whatever this ebook deal is going to look like, it's also going to help educate your clients. So being able to talk with people who don't really understand what you're doing, who don't even really know why they have to do it. They were just told by someone that they need to do it for their business. Being able to speak to them and help them understand your language is something that I also wish I had, and something I'm going to create for others.
That sounds awesome. And when you have that ready, I would love to promote it on our platforms.
Oh, I would love that.
We ask everybody on the podcast where they put themselves on the Powerful Ladies scale. 0 is average everyday human, and 10 is super powerful lady. So where would you put yourself today, and where do you find yourself, ranking yourself on average?
So today I feel a 10. I feel like I have it going on.
Awesome.
Yes, I am a 10. Most days, as much as I would love to say that I'm a 10, every day is different. I will say I had a really amazing week this week, both professionally and personally. So I'm going to give myself a 10, but some days I feel like some days I'm at a 1, and I think it's good to recognize those days because it makes the 10 days that much better.
What do you think is the best piece of advice you have been given, professional or personal?
Oh, goodness. The best piece of advice I've ever been given is it's not always going to be this way. And that can be of two things, right? It could be of the good and the bad. So when you're riding that high wave and you feel amazing, it's not always going to be this way. And so enjoy it. Enjoy the fuck out of it. And when you are at your lowest lows and you don't feel like you can crawl out of that hole, you will crawl out of that hole. It will change. It will not always be this way.
Awesome. Like no truer words, right? Like it wasn't this way before. It won't be this way again. So.
Yep. Celebrate the wins, accept the losses.
Yeah.
And for me too, I feel like I don't celebrate the wins enough. Like I don't give myself enough credit. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I did, this is great. This is amazing. But like, okay, what's next? And that's not fair to me. I worked hard for that win. I worked hard for that good moment, whether personal or professional, and it needs to be lived in more. Whereas when anything bad, quote unquote, happens, I live there and I stay there. You can't get me out of there. And I that's not fair. So celebrating the wins is much needed.
Well, as we are wrapping up today, is there anything else that you would love to leave our listeners with about being powerful or social media or just Hannah's words of wisdom?
I love that, Hannah's words of wisdom. I would like anyone who's listening, especially if you are a powerful lady, to remember to take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. And you are more powerful than you even know.
Amen to that. Yes. Well, you have done incredible today. This was so valuable and insightful. Thank you for sharing your story and all of your tips. I think that we're going to have a ton of feedback about this episode. And I even hear like we need to do a social media workshop together. Like it's already on my list. I wrote it down. But this has been so great. So thank you so much for being a yes to Powerful Ladies.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Finally, someone who will give us a clear and simple plan to structure our social media approach. Holy smokes, I've been waiting for this forever. I love the freedom of just picking 2 channels to communicate with customers and the world. I love that she clarified that most social media is lead generating, not sales generating. I also have some relief that a powerful lady working in social media is taking on the responsibility to make sure that content and the methodology that they are making social media content behind is out there to do good and not to harm. She dropped so much knowledge in this episode. Please let us know what you think and what you thought and what else you'd like to know. Email us at hello@thepowerfulladies.com. To connect, support, and follow Hannah, you can follow her on Instagram at Hannah_diff. And of course, you can also email her hannahdiff00@gmail.com. All of it, you can find the correct spellings and additional ways to reach out to her in our show notes at thepowerfulladies.com. I hope you've enjoyed this new episode of the Powerful Ladies podcast. If you're a guest to Powerful Ladies and you want to support us, you can subscribe to this podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts or on our website, thepowerfulladies.com. Don't forget to rate us and give us a review. You can also be one of our patrons on patreon.com/powerfulladies. Follow us at Powerful Ladies, and of course, visit our website, thepowerfulladies.com. For any other information you want about how to connect with us, send us a note. We love your feedback. It's all available at thepowerfulladies.com.